Okay, so start Rhino. I'm going to do that. And it'll take a little time for mine to start up here. And you get this little thing. You can either do a new file, so we'll say new file. For the 3D printer, I usually will do millimeters and small objects. Basically, what do we have here? We should have a file setup. Yeah, file setup. No, sorry. I have this all mapped out wonderfully. Where's my mill? Oh, okay. Yeah. So in any case, sorry. Yeah. So your objects typically in the AEC industry we're working in inches and millimeters. So you want to choose inches or millimeters. And small objects are like breadbasket or jewelry. Large objects would be buildings and site models. So your basic user interface, the web link there has a good walkthrough of it if you forget any of this. Your viewports, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 viewports. This is your perspective viewport. Right click, you can navigate like so. Scroll wheel, you can do that. If you hit the control right click, you can do that. The navigation, so drop down menus are along the top here, right? And so you basically file, edit, view. But these are kind of ones you'll use the most up there. And then you have your command line. So I would tend to use the command line a lot. So and you'll get used to what the commands are pretty quickly. The toolbar and toolbar groups. So here's your toolbar across here, and I'll go into some of those buttons as we go along. Your groups, so some of these commands are actually grouped for your convenience, but this is your standard one, far left. This is the sidebar, I'll close that, where this is where a lot of your commands for modeling will come from. Again, you'll start to use quick keys though, I think, as you move along. And then the panels here, this will tell you object properties, so you can change things of an object, what layer it's on, and then you have your layers tab. So those are the kind of big things you'll use there. What I'm trying to do is just walk you through the things that you will use the most. And then on the bottom, you have the status bar, which has these settings: grid snap, ortho, planar, object snap, and smart track. So ortho, basically, if I'm drawing a line, it's going to only let me do it like so. If I hit O, spacebar, then I can draw however I want. Grid snap is going to mean that every line I draw is going to snap to a grid. If I take that off, then I can snap wherever I want. Object snap controls these settings here, which will snap to different parts of the object. You guys with me still? Okay. And then planar means that everything I draw, because we're in a 3D environment, everything I draw will be, when I have planar on, will stay within that plane, right? So even though I'm drawing, it looks like I'm sort of dragging my mouse up here, it's actually all staying flat. That's kind of a quick run through. Right click is your friend. It restarts a command. Spacebar will also activate a command. File setup. Just follow these handy instructions. Be kind of rigorous about your file naming throughout the course. It's going to make your life a lot easier. I worked with someone who named things like Lorenzo's head or F this. And that was really hard to work with that person, and well, I mean, for other reasons too. But in any case, be consistent with it. So options for the file, if you just type options, you'll get various options up here. The things I will mess with, and you can also get these options by just typing the name in the command line, but the grid, A lot of times, I don't want to. 100's fine, but maybe I don't want a grid line every millimeter. Maybe I just want it every 10 millimeters. That kind of maybe makes this a little. Oops, it should be major lines every 10. I'm not sure why the minor didn't work there, but that's what happens. When you are showing something. So in any case, it's the grid units. So if you did the wrong units and you just want to change your units from millimeters to inches, you can just type in units and you'll get that. So general settings. One thing so I'm going to make a box here. I type box. So this talks about two things: display mode. So this is a wireframe. So this is actually a solid box. If I go here and I right click, I get these different modes. So then I get shaded mode, and I get rendered mode, and so on and so forth. And then you get ghosted. So sometimes people like to work in ghosted. Sometimes people like to work in perspective. I mean, not perspective, wireframe or solid. But if I make like a sphere, see, I already have display iso curve. Yeah. So I just clicked surface iso curve. I usually don't like to see these guys, so I usually just click that off, show surface iso curves. That's all I'm going to say about that. And yeah.
So you can sort of customize that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then you can, if you want different colors, you can go under appearances. So again, if we go to options, appearances, change colors, and you don't want to deal with modeling aids. So again, I kind of have a list here of the major ones that you'd want to look at. Little section there on layers. Again, organize your layers. It'll make your life a lot easier. So I will kind of go in and say underlying geometry work point or something like that. And a lot of times I'll actually try and keep it like a little header and then 4 letters for the other stuff. So that's like surface. Would just say, well, what do I want to say there? We'll just say 2D actually for that. I'll say 3D surface, and maybe 3D. And so lines are typically referred to as curves, so I'll say curve. All right. So at display mode, I did that. Viewport properties. So this is kind of a helpful thing. If you're making an image from, so you can see here the lines are converging. If I go viewport properties down here, I can change that to a parallel projection. And now I'm working in like isometric view, if you prefer that. Some people I know do that and it would just bug the crap out of me. When I would get their files and have to work on them, I'd be like, oh, I have to keep going back to that. Depends on what you want to do. And you can change the lens length too, so if you want to get kind of much wider, crazier view for your interior perspectives, you can do that. Viewport properties, but I'll go, so its standard is 50. I'll just keep it like that. Modeling aids, I went over grid snap, ortho, planar. So object snap, endpoint near, so endpoint will snap my line to the end or this intersection. If you click on near, it'll just grab a point kind of anywhere, and that's sort of a goofy, but it's helpful sometimes. The different midpoint, intersection, perpendicular, so that will always snap a line perpendicular to your surface. Oh, I didn't put it on, did I? Nope. There we are. So those are your object snaps. So new file, small objects, millimeters. You can convert this back and forth. So say I want to change to inches. I'll just say inches. I'll get the dialog. It says scale model. Say no. You want the model to stay the same size. You just want the units to change, right? So if you don't just know to say no, you have to think about it for like an hour before you're like, do I want it? I used to have to. until I did it 100 times and said, okay, scale model. No. See, I have to actually walk myself through that every time. So the sidebar buttons. So to make entities, and we'll just start with 2D construction, and I'll kind of just build up this object really slowly, maybe as we do it. So polyline. So this is one button that I'll use. So if I just make a line, I want to work on my center line layer. I'll usually just start the origin 0, 0, 0, hit my space bar, hit O to put ortho on, and now we want. So here's a handy thing. We know we're working in millimeters, but we know we want the bed to be 6 by 8 inches. So I can actually type 6 in, and it knows 6 inches, which is kind of handy. Oh, you know what? Let me just go here really quick, because I'm not liking this grid situation.
What's the code for centimeters?
CM. Grid. Snap spacing, minor extents. That's my problem. 100. Whew. Okay, I like that better. So then that was 6 inches. I'll go 8 inches. And there's quicker ways to do this, right? But I'm just kind of showing you the tool. So other curves, polyline. I'm going to turn ortho off. We'll let you do polylines. And then there's, so these are all kind of straight lines, and you can kind of play around with different ones. So perpendicular, we'll draw a line perpendicular from another curve. And you can do ones perpendicular to 2 curves, which is kind of interesting. Bisect will actually bisect between 2 angles, and draw a bisecting line. And there's tangent. Where's tangent? Tangent's a nice one. Tangent will actually draw a line tangent to another curve. If I go to
one good
yep.
trick for that I found the other day.
Yep, go for it.
Shift. Holds, I think it's shift.
Mm-hmm.
Holds the direction that your line is in. I think it's shift.
Okay, cool.
I believe. So if you want to like go and then make it like really long, you just hold it out there and then push shift.
Cool.
I think it's shift, is it not?
I don't know. Oh, yep, there you go. Very
That's
nice,
pretty
very nice. Didn't know that. Learn something new every day. So points, you can, do a point. Or you can do multiple points. Or you can divide a curve. So you pick the curve, divide, and you can divide it by number of segments or length. So if I want to divide this by 20, and then it divides that curve into 20 points. Convenient. Yeah. And then selecting, when the box is like this, you go top left to right, bottom right. You're just selecting whatever is in that box. If you go bottom right to top left, you're selecting whatever the box touches. So erase all those. Another handy thing just in zooming, zoom selected will help recenter your thing into whatever you select. So if sometimes the orbiting feels like you're doing this all the time, and you kind of just want to stay on your object. You can also zoom extents, ZE, which is useful. The curves, so polyline curves, kind of 2 different basics you want to know about curves. And so all I'm doing to get these things to hang out is holding down the button, and then I can drag that off. But so a control point curve is, I'm going to click points out in space, but it's not going to go through that point. So these are control points that are then controlling the shape of that curve. A interpolated curve is actually going to go right through those points. See the difference? So, and then that's useful to know because then when I pick that, the control point curve, I can edit by clicking those points that I actually picked. The interpolate curve, and I'm clicking this to show those points. So interpolate will give you control points to edit if you like. It will also give you the points that you picked to begin with. And all I'm doing to drag those is just clicking on the point and dragging it. Going through arc, I'm not going to go into that. Interpolate conic, so conic, I'm not going to go into Transforms, fillet, offset, extend. So these are similar to Rhino commands. So I can fillet these curves if I want. I can adjust the radius. So I'll say 50 for that radius. And I have the option to join the curves like that, or I can not. So there's a little toggle up there to join or not. I'm going to explode that. And now it explodes that into 3 pieces. So again, this is being recorded, so you know, if you're like, oh, that was cool, how did you do that? You can go back and figure that out. Okay, time is of the essence here. So I'm just gonna, if we flip to page 5, I'm just gonna walk through 3D print file construction, okay? And if we have time, I can come back to some of these things. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm just going to make my new file. Planar is on. So I set up my layers. So I'm going to start with the command box. And I'm going to type 000. And, well, I showed you that you could actually do 6 inches. That's in millimeters. So I'm going to do 6 inch, comma. Let's see if this works. I've never done that twice. Ah, that works. And then it gives me, and then I have to hit the height for that. So that's my box. And I'm going to put that on another layer, UG, underlying geometry, surface. And to change that layer, I just go to properties and toggle that guy there. Now I also, just conceptually, I like to build things as they're going into the printer. So our printer actually, you go in the short way, so I'm just going to rotate this. So I type in ROT, hit ortho because I want it to just rotate 90 degrees. And then I'm going to move this, so MOVE, and then move to 0. So that just gives me a sense of what my build volume is, so I just know that I'm not getting too big or crazy.
So it's the green axis or what's that way?
Oh yeah, so the green is Y and red is X. So type in zoom extents for zoom extents. So that's your y-axis. So to go between views, I'm just double-clicking top to go back to the 4, and then double-clicking perspective to work in perspective. And I tend to just work in perspective until I need to go to an ortho view.
You have 2 screens open instead of the 4?
You can, yeah. So you can actually drag these. You can close them. Yeah. So you can work out a configuration that works for you. Yep, absolutely. And sometimes, like, let's do that. So I'm going to now use centerline layer. I'm going to extract wireframe. And that's just taking the edges and extracting them. And then I'm going to hide my box here. So now I can just see the wireframe of what I'm working inside. So I'm going to go to 3D curve. Let's see, box, extract wireframe, hide box. So I'm just going to sketch a curve. So there's a kind of interesting tool. I was playing around with this last night, creating with these all. So sketch curve. If I hit that, I'm just holding my mouse down and so I can sign my name. It's kind of interesting. Do that, or that's my signature. Anyway, but you can build a curve any number of ways. I'm going to maybe use the control point curve in here. Ooh, I'm going to turn ortho. I like to have ortho off, so I hit O, space bar, get that off. So control point curve, because it has a little bit of control to it. And there's my surface. And then I'm going to copy that curve vertically. So I select it. I am now going to a front or right view, so I can see it from the side. And I'm just going to copy this. And you could array it. There's different ways to do it. I'm just sometimes do things the most obvious way. And now I don't want to copy I don't have much control here, so I'm going to go ortho. So I just copy vertically in some kind of intervals. What's actually nice to do, and I'll redo this, whenever you're working with something and you're doing multiples, I always highly recommend, and I learned this from someone, copy in intervals that are regular, so you can always move things back and forth if you want. So I'm going to right this time. Let's say copy. And I have quick keys of my own that I've made. I'll show you really quick how to import those. So CO I got from AutoCAD, because so a lot of the commands, if you've ever used AutoCAD, are translatable to this. So I'm just picking here, and now I'm going to type in, I want to copy every inch, say, so I just type in 1 inch, and it's only going to let me go vertically an inch. Then I'm going to go 2 inches and 3 inches. All right, so now I'm going in regular intervals as I copy. So now I'm just going to delete these guys, and you can just delete with your delete key. So you just select it and delete. I copied it vertically. I'm going to turn my control points on for a couple of these curves and just make a funny shape with it. So I go edit point. So points on is this little thing. You can see little dotted lines there. So I hit that. And I have my control points. Now I have planar on. So when I pull that point, it's only pulling it in that plane, right? So you can see it's still staying planar. If I turn planar off and I drag that point and I snap to there, see how it's dragged that in 3D space? So I didn't want to do that for this, so I'll just test that. Make sure. So I'm going to snap to there. Oh, it still did it. No. But if I didn't have planar on and I dragged, let's see, if I just drag randomly, yeah, it's kind of asking if I want to go down or up, or something like that. But if I have, oh, that's odd.
Ortho's still on too.
Yeah, there's probably a reason that it's, I'm trying to demonstrate something, so that's why it's not working. So I'm just going to mess this one up too with my control points and drag that out of plane. So then a lot of your commands, a lot of your life will be spent with these commands. These are your surface creation commands and surface editing or surface tools command. So surface creation gives you a bunch of different ways to make surfaces. You can do a 2 or 3 point surface. I'm going to do a 3 point surface just by picking some points. I'm sorry, 2 or 4 point surface. I'm going to do 4 point. Can make a little high par here. All right, woo, that's cool. And oh, this is a cool thing too. So just a couple. Let's see, we'll pull this out. So curve from object commands. I wrote this wrong. I should have used those titles. For the titles of your things in the what I have under 2D construction and 3D construction, I just use the title that comes up when you hover over it. So which is just the command, but these are the actual proper things. Anyway, curve from object is pretty cool. So I can get let's see, extract ISO curve. So all your objects are made from UV curves. I can go into that another time, but if I extract an ISO curve from this guy, it's just giving me what are called they're basically like XY coordinates for surface. And I hit T for toggle, and that toggles to the other side. So I can extract all these curves from that surface. So I hide it, and now I've pulled curves from that, which is kind of cool. I can also do what's called contour. So if I select this surface, I type in contour, and these tools are in this curve from object dialog. And I say the direction I want to contour in, and I say the distance between contours, and I'll just say 0.5 inch, and I then get these contours out of that. So I'll hide that. Right, so now I get contours out of that. So there's different things you can do with that. You can get you can cut a section through it and whatnot. So surface creation, I showed you that one. Loft is a really awesome one, so that's what we're going to use for this. I'm going to go to my surface layer. I'm going to loft. It asks me to select the curves to loft, and so what it's going to do is just going to connect all those points with a surface. And there's your juicy surface. Pretty cool. And then I'm going to extrude that surface in a direction, and maybe I'll make a new layer for that. I kind of operate on the more layers the better. Maybe that's not always the best way, but I'm going to call this solid, even though it's not really a solid. And I'm going to extrude surf. And so Rhino will also give you suggestions. Another nice command or nice tab panel is your help panel. So that will just when you have a command active, it'll give you some tips on that command. So extrude surface gives you some stuff. Now you'll see it wants to extrude up and down. I'm going to type D for direction. I'm going to pick this point and I'm going to extrude it now in this direction. Whoop, no, sorry. I'll try that again. Extrude surface. Select surface to extrude. Direction. Boom. Oh, and I didn't click again. Okay, so click again to get that direction. And then you can type in how deep you want it to extrude. I'll do a 1/16 of an inch. And there we go. There's our surface. And I'm not going to go through cage edit because we've got to wrap up, but you want to analyze it. So I'm just going to do something here. Let's see. So first, to analyze it, I want to show edges. I want to see, show. Oh yeah, to get something back that you hid, you type show selected. And that's an object that I hid. I get it back if I want. But I want to show edges. So I pick the object. This is showing me what all the edges are in pink. That's showing me my naked edges. So there's no naked edges. So I'm happy about that because that's the chocolate bunny. So if I had a naked edge, I'd be dead in outer space. So you don't want that. So now, but what I'm going to do, there's a command. I can extract a surface, extract surf. So I'm going to pick that surface. I'm going to extract it. That means that I can now move that surface. So you see how that's empty inside as an object? I'm going to undo that moving, but this is still a separate object. These are two objects. So now if I select both those objects and I type show edges, that's a naked edge that I've made. Right? So that's showing me that I'm not a chocolate bunny anymore. I'm a chocolate bunny that my seam will let water in if I was to be submerged in water. Or if I had water inside me as a chocolate bunny, my water would ooze out of me. So we don't want that. I think it might even work still, potentially, but bad things can happen on the 3D printer with that. So I'm going to export to STL. So I select my object, I export it. I think I can maybe get the volume of this.
Did you join that back together?
Oh yeah, what did I do? You can join it back together. I think I just undid. But so those are empty. Yeah, but that's a good question. So I select that, so I type join, select that, and that just join it back together automatically. So you type join and everything happens automatically like magic. That means your object's really well built. If you type join, you have to click it all, and then you have to hit enter. That means there's still something missing. So, but then you just go and show edges. And show edges is kind of pain. And actually, the nice thing with show edges, if I just had like a naked edge that was like really, so here, well, it would, let's see, extract. Well, you can zoom into that little edge. Export. So you toggle to STL. Stereolithography is the file type. And I'm going to ignore my advice and just make a stupid name. Not too stupid. So that tolerance is okay. You want to do binary for our machine. And you say okay. And now it's made a stereolithography file. And you can bring that to Ken.
James, you have a number, the 0.254, is that the tolerance?
That's what I just skipped through.
So that's like the ideal tolerance?
That's a pretty fine grain. Yeah, I mean, so I'll show you in a second what that looks like. I just want to see if I can get the volume of this. So that's one. So you can convert 15 blah 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 cubic millimeters to get your cost estimate to cubic inches, and then times 3. There might be some issue. It might also involve the support, that cubic inch. I'm not totally clear. I'll clarify that with Ken. So I'm just going to do something really quick though. I'm going to open. Where people are trying to get in here, but I'm just going to open that stereolithography so you can see what that means. All files. Shoot, it's not giving me all files. Okay. So 3D print test 2. Oh, it's saving. I want to open. Oh. Right. Okay. Control open. Save changes to untitled. Sure. I'll just save it as version 03. Open 3D print test 2. Just say okay. So the stereolithography file has made a mesh. One thing to go through your viewport types. I'm hitting Control Alt S right now to go to shaded. So Control Alt W would be wireframe. But you can see, so it's basically converted that into a series of triangulated. You see how that's actually flat? So that's the resolution of your model.
So is that the 0.254?
That it's a result of the 0.254. So it's basically, I think what that means is that if I had a curve flowing like that, the maximum distance between that surface and the surface that it's out of plane with would be 0.254 millimeters. That's pretty good. The printout will be crappier than that. So I think we got a class waiting to come in.
Someone leave their water bottle here?
So we're done.